This is the video for 11.2. This is direct variation. Within this lesson, we're going to look at two different types of variation, direct variation and also inverse variation. So the main points really is this part on the side here. So a direct variation is a relationship in which the ratio of y to x is a constant k. We say y varies directly with x. Now what that means is specifically, you take each x value, you times it by a specific number, and it will always give you the y value. For example, this example here, y equals 3x. That means whatever the x value is, if you times it by 3, that will always tell you the y value. Now, couple of important things about this graph that are really going to help us is, one of them is it always goes through 0, 0. And the second one is it's always a straight line. So if we plot the points and we see a straight line going through 0, 0, first of all, we know straight away it's direct variation, and then we can try and figure out what that constant is. When we write the rules out, they always look like this: y equals kx, where k is just some number that we hopefully can find out. So find the constant k, then write a direct variation equation. So really, I only need to look at just one coordinate here. That should be enough for me to tell what the answer is here. So what do I multiply 1 by to give me 4? Well, clearly the answer is 4. Check that it works for the other ones too. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. And 4 times 4 is 16. So the value of the constant is 4. And then as we're checking our answer, then we know that y equals 4x. So that rule on the last page said y equals kx. And you can see that that is true. Now, I actually typed in those values on a table as well, and you can see that they make a straight line. I think actually when you do your table, it's always worth adding in 0, 0 as well, just so you can kind of see. And if you type in your equation of a straight line here, that y1 still at mx1 plus b, it will actually go ahead and join the line for you to confirm that it is a straight line for this one. And you can see that the slope is 4 here as well. There's that k value. So if it wasn't obvious that you were timesing by 4, you could find it from here also. The other way you can find it easily is to do second value divided by first value. 4 divided by 1, 8 divided by 2, 12 divided by 3, 16 divided by 4. They all give you an answer of 4. So same thing with this one. I only really need to look at one of these. 3 times which number gives me -6. If I'm not sure, just do the reverse. Second number divided by first number. So -6 divided by 3 is -2. And then I can go ahead and I can check my answer. I think it's y equals -2x. And if you plot those points, you can indeed see that it is. Interestingly here, it doesn't say 0. It says -5 times 10 to the -17. If you remember from middle school, that means basically -0.0000000, 17 zeros and 5 pretty much. So basically it is 0. So kind of strange that it did that. But you can certainly see those points, and you can see that it makes a straight line going through 0. So that's another way just to check if you're not sure which type of variation it is. Now, a slightly different one this time. They've given us a point, and then we've got to find out a mystery point. So I still want to find out what I'm multiplying by here. So if I'm not sure, 16 divided by -4 will give me -4. So I have to times x by -4, and the answer has to be -52. So if I'm not sure, I can just do -52 divided by -4, and hopefully we will find out that it's 13. If you're not sure, obviously you can use Desmos as well to check that. So I think that that's good. Let's check it. -4 times 13. Yeah, you can see that it's -52. Now, the other way I can do this question is, I typed in 0, 0, because I know all variation goes through 0, 0. I typed in -416 as well, because that was the point in my question. And there we go. And then actually, I typed in each of these answers. Now, it's not easy to see here, so I'm going to zoom back in again, just so, there we go. So this point here was 11 -52, 12 -15, 13 -52, and 14. And you can clearly see that the one that it goes through is also 13 -52. So another visual, very nice way of checking answers if you're not sure. Type them all in, just make sure the straight line passes through that. I had to do my y1 still at mx1 plus b to get the line actually drawn, because these are all very close together. It wouldn't be easy just to look at this one and figure out which is the correct one. They twisted the table sideways this time, same deal. What do I times the x value by to get to the y? What do I times -4 to get 12? Or do the reverse, 12 divided by -4. And that gives me -3. So I know my rule then is y equals -3x. And you can check your answer if you need to. That was supposed to be a your turn question. Oh well. And the Desmos calculator was there, so you could practice these as well. So perhaps you could do this one here. Just remember, if you get a decimal, then you can type in that decimal and it will change it for you. So looks like I've got to stop my video for a second. My cat wants to come into the room. Come on, pest. All right, inverse variation. So this is a different type of variation. The thing with direct variation is as one thing increases, another thing increases. So for example, if you're buying something, if you bought 2 t-shirts and it costs $20, obviously if you buy 5 t-shirts, it costs more, it'd be like $50. Now for inverse variation, the opposite is true. As one thing goes up, something else goes down. Now that might not seem very obvious to begin with, but an easy example would be if you were sharing some food out. So if you had 24 cookies, if you had 24 people in your class, clearly you just get one cookie per person. If you decrease the number of people, that doesn't decrease the amount of cookies you get. It actually increases it. So if I only had 12 people in my class, actually I could have 2 cookies for each person. It would go up. If I had 6 people in the class, they could have 4 cookies each. Now the rule for inverse variation is rather than multiplying x by a number to get y, you actually multiply the 2 numbers together and it gives you a set answer each time. So for example, on this one here, first of all, notice this is not a straight line graph. And notice it doesn't go through 0, 0. So just by plotting these, we know that it's either going to be inverse or direct just from looking at the picture. And the rule for this one is multiply them together to find a constant. 2 times 120, 240. 3 times 80, 240. 4 times 60, 240, and so on. So once we found out that constant, we can easily work out other values. So literally just times them together. Probably the easiest one to do will be this. -1 times -6 is 6. As I'm writing down my rule, I just put x times y equals whatever that number actually is. So we'll just check, and we'll check. That should be good. I'm not sure if they rearranged this. Let me try one other thing. All right, so basically they did the opposite for this one. The equation I wrote down is perfectly good, and I would actually personally recommend that you use that as your equation. The 2 letters multiplied together, but just so you can see the other one, basically they just divided both sides by x to make it start with y equals. Both of these are the same. Me personally, I prefer this one here, mainly because it doesn't have a fraction involved. And you could see that it was that type of question because you can see this is not a straight line here. And also you can see with the 0, 0, it's clearly not going to go through 0, 0. And if I type in those coordinates and type in my rule, you can actually see that it goes through each of those points as well. Just to show you that other answer, notice that also goes through there as well because it was basically the same equation in a different form. All right, example 2. So just multiply them together. If I want to do it by hand, that's probably the easiest one. -1 times 12, -12. And I would put xy equals -12, but I don't think it's going to like that. Nope. So we'll do it the other way around. Y equals -12 over x. All right. Don't like that personally, but hey, you kind of need to know both of them. If you plot all the points, once again, with 0, 0, you can see that this is not a straight line. So you know that this is the inverse type. And if I type in xy equals -12, you can see that it goes through each of the points as well. So a good way of checking answers, if you're given a list of multiple choice ones, type in the coordinates, type in each rule, see which one works for you. 12 times 14, numbers are starting to get a little bit big for this. So 12 times 14, I can work out what that is. I actually set it up as one equation straight away, but 168. And then we can go back and we know that -24 times a number must also be 168. So we can figure out what that number is by dividing. Was it 24? Yeah, -24. And the answer was -7. So you can pick out that answer. Just so you can see what I did at the top, this was me checking the answers. Myself, I actually just write out the question. So I wrote the left 2 equaled the right 2 multiplied together. So I knew it was y, and then I can just click on the intercept here, and I can find that it's -7. So a different way of thinking about it. So I could do the same for this. I could say this times this equals this times this. And that's exactly what I did here. And then the advantage is I can just click on the intercept straight away and find out that it's 9. Or you can multiply these together, find it's -63. and then figure out what number times by -7 gives you -63. Either way around, you will find a right answer. Same thing for this one, just written slightly differently. If y is 12 and x is 6, the important part is we've got to read this top line. Which type of variation actually is it? So as long as it says inverse variation, we multiply these two together. So that gives me -72. And then I got to figure out what number times by -24 gives me -72. So -72 divided by -24 should be 3. And it indeed is. And on my picture here, I could see that it was 3 as well. So some actual word problems here, so we can figure out what's going on here. A person burned 275 calories running for 22 minutes. The next day, the same person burned 450 calories running for 36 minutes. Let n represent the number of calories and t represent the time in minutes. Which equation best describes the relationship? Now, a few different ways we can try and tackle this. One thing I notice is as the number of minutes increases, the calories increases as well. So it's that same relationship. As one goes up, the other one goes up. So I know that that's direct variation. And I know the rule for that is y equals kx from that very first page that we saw. So from here, I can try and pick out some answers. Well, I can see it's not that one because the two letters are on the same side. Looks like I've narrowed it down a little bit, but not too much. Let's see if I actually went to the table. I typed in 0, 0. I typed in those two coordinates, and you can see that it is definitely direct variation. When you type in the y1, Sedilla mx1 plus b, you can see that all of them lie on the same line. And my rule, unfortunately, said 0.08. So as I looked, I noticed that wasn't one of the answers. So I realized I kind of got my x's and y's switched around. I got them the wrong way around. So I did 1 divided by 0.08, and I got 12.5. So I know that narrows it down to 2, and then I've just got to make sure I pick the right one. So is it 12.5 times the time? Gives me this, and that's what I got to work out. Is it 12.5 multiplied by 22 equals 275, or is it the other way around as in answer B? Is it the time as in 22 minutes? Does that equal 12.5 times by the number of calories burned, which is 275? Now, I think we can probably do this without the calculator. I think it's pretty obvious 12 times 275 is not 22. And it is indeed that first option. Next one. Painting contractor determined the average number of time needed to paint a house. 2 painters is 20 hours. Just going to create a little table here. And 6 painters take 6 2/3 of an hour. Now, one thing I noticed straight away, as the painting number of painters goes up, the time decreases, obviously, because there's more people to help. But notice as one goes up, the other one goes down. So I know this is an inverse variation question. So I know this is the form xy equals k. Or as we saw earlier, sometimes you can write that as y equals k over x. So I might be able to use that to narrow down some answers. But certainly anything that says varies directly, I know that's the wrong answer. And I know that's the wrong answer as well. And actually, if we type in those points straight away, to get the 6 2/3, you type in the 6, leave a space, and then just do the fraction 2/3. Notice these 3 points, definitely not a straight line going through 0, 0. So that's straight away this is not direct variation anyway. So for inverse variation, we multiply the two numbers together. So 2 times 20 is 40. So I think the rule is xy equals 40. And look, those 2 points that are in our table, you can see do lie on that line. Lie on that curve. And then I think we can pick out the correct answer here. Multiply the two things together, and you get 40. There we go. So being able to determine whether something's direct or inverse is really useful to do. 2 relationships here. Karen drove 160 miles in 4 hours, and she drove 80 miles in 2 hours. And then relationship T. Which statement is true? So they're either both direct, neither of them are direct. Only S is direct, or only T is direct. So I've actually set up both of these so I could work out the answer. So I typed in the numbers, and I also typed in 0, 0. And you can see this one is a straight line, and it goes through 0, 0 because I did my straight line equation. So that one's certainly direct variation. And actually, when you type in the other one, that's even more clearly direct variation. Straight line. I added in the 0, 0 because I know it has to go through 0, 0 as well. And once again, you can see this is a perfect straight line going through 0, 0. So I can answer this one. I can say that both of them are direct variation. Let me skip past the graphs. Mr. Scott will pay $2,000 to have her house. Oh, sorry, Miss Scott will pay $2,000 to have her house painted. The amount of each painter earns A, and it varies inversely for the number of painters, N. So, first of all, with that inverse, I normally think of it being X, Y equals K. So for this question, instead of being X and Y, though, the two letters are A and N. So when I multiply them together, A times N equals, and the key number in this question is going to be 2,000. So I can already see that it is answer 4. But just one other way you can check these answers as well. As it's inverse, I know this is not a straight line, and I know it doesn't go through 0, 0. So as I type in each equation, now you might have to zoom out kind of a lot here. I already started to zoom out. This is definitely not curved, so I know that it's not that first answer. And same for B, that gives me a straight line, so I know that's not inverse variation either. As you type in C, it actually draws over the y-axis. You kind of got to notice there, that's almost vertical, that line, because it has a slope of 2,000. Whereas that last line, and I might have to zoom back in again here, hopefully you can see that that is definitely that curved graph that we saw earlier for inverse variation. So shapes of graphs can often find you the answer if you're not sure. Well, 2 more points to make a direct variation graph. So we've got a little sketch pad on here. So to make it direct variation, we know it has to go through 0, 0. So that should be the first point that you plot. And then to make a straight line, we've just got to follow this same pattern. So just count the squares here. You can see it goes up 3 and across 2. So do the same again. Go up 3 and across 2. And that would actually be enough for this question. If it says plot 3 more, then do it again. Up 3, across 2. You can also go backwards from this as well. You could go 2 to the left and 3 down, and then go 2 to the left and 3 down as well. But just make sure that it's a straight line and it goes through 0, 0. So 0, 0 should always be your first point. And actually, any of the blue dots on here, you can clearly see lie on the line and go through 0, 0. So any of those would be correct. There was one for you to try as well. So actually, is that exactly the same? That one looks exactly the same. I think I included the wrong picture by accident. I think the picture was supposed to be here. I will fix that before we actually try this one. So for this one, same thing. I would put 0, 0 first, and then look at the pattern. It goes up 1 and across 2. So do the same again. Up 1 and across 2. Up 1 and across 2. Except you only need to do 2 points. And there we go. There's the picture. I added in one too many slides. And then you can go ahead and look at the answer. And any of those blue dots, clearly a straight line is going through 0, 0. And that would be it for direct and variation and inverse. So direct, straight line going through 0, 0. The rule is y equals kx. And for inverse variation, you see that curved graph. But it's when you multiply the two numbers together, and it always gives you that same answer. And that should do it for this video.